Hans Köchler is a retired professor of philosophy at the University of Innsbruck, Austria, and president of the International Progress Organization, a non-governmental organization in consultative status with the United Nations. In his general philosophical outlook, he is influenced by Husserl and Heidegger. His legal thinking has been shaped by the approach of Kelsen. Köchler has made contributions to phenomenology and philosophical anthropology and has developed a hermeneutics of transcultural understanding that has influenced the discourse on the dialogue of civilizations, particularly as regards the relations between Islam and the West. His research in political and legal philosophy, combined with his involvement with the UN, has resulted in a fundamental critique of the state-centered international system and in specific proposals for the democratization of the United Nations organization and for a viable system of international criminal justice. Early life and academic career. In his student years, Hans Köchler was actively involved as a board member of the European Forum Altbach and established contacts with leading European intellectuals and philosophers such as Mainz Sperber, Hans-Georg Gadamer and Rudi Supek of the Praxis School, who he invited to his lecture series that he organized from 1969 onwards. At the beginning of the 1970s, he had joined the team around Otto Molden, the founder of the European Forum Altbach. These were his formative philosophical years. He initially developed an interest in existential philosophy, transcendental philosophy and phenomenology. In particular, he undertook an epistemological critique of Husserl's transcendental idealism, and interpreted Heidegger's philosophy of being in the sense of social critique, opening up, in the Cold War era, a dialogue with humanist philosophers of the Praxis School in Yugoslavia and in Czechoslovakia. As a doctoral student, he also had met in Altbach with Ernst Bloch, Arthur Koestler and Karl Popper. In 1972, Köchler graduated at the University of Innsbruck with a doctor degree in philosophy with highest honors. In the years following his graduation, he expanded his scholarly interest to philosophy of law and later political philosophy. Since the early 1970s, he has been promoting the idea of intercultural dialogue, which, since the last decade, has become known under the slogan of dialogue of civilizations. Köchler first outlined his hermeneutical philosophy of dialogue and his concept of cultural self-comprehension in lectures at the University of Innsbruck and at the Royal Scientific Society in Amman, Jordan, in March 1974, and discussed that notion in a tour around the world for which he got support and encouragement from Austrian Foreign Minister Rudolf Kirchschläger, and in the course of which he met with intellectuals and political leaders on all continents. Among his interlocutors were Youssef El-Sabah, Minister of Culture of Egypt, Professor S. Nurul Hassan, Minister of Education, Social Welfare and Culture of India, Prince Subhadradis Diskal of Thailand, Karun Fanisrankal Narayudhyar, Foreign Minister of Thailand, Professor Ida Bagus Mantra, Director General for Culture of Indonesia, and the President of Senegal, Leopold Sedar Senghor. In recognition of his contribution to the dialogue among civilizations, he received an honorary doctor degree from the Mindanao State University. In 2012, he received an honorary doctor degree from the Armenian State Pedagogical University. In 1982, he was appointed as University Professor of Philosophy at the University of Innsbruck. From 1990 until 2008, he has served as chairman of the Department of Philosophy at the University of Innsbruck. At his university, Professor Köchler also has acted as chairperson of the Arbeitsgemeinschaft für Wissenschaft und Politik since 1971. He was a member of the Doctoral Grants Committee of the Austrian Academy of Sciences and is Life Fellow, since 2010 co-president of the International Academy for Philosophy. Since 2010, he is also a member of the advisory board of the Indian Yearbook of International Law and Policy. Additional professorships. visiting professor at the University of Malaya, Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, visiting professorial lecturer at the Polytechnic University of the Philippines, Manila, honorary professor of philosophy at Pamukkale University, Turkey. Köchler is the recipient of numerous honors and awards, such as the History Medal of the Austrian College Society, the Award Apostle of International Understanding, the Honorary Medal of the International Peace Bureau, the Honorary Medal of the Polytechnic University of the Philippines, the Royal Daitoship of the Sultanate of Marawi, the Medal of David the Invincible by the Armenian Philosophical Academy, the Gusi Peace Prize. On 18 October 2003, the Hans Köchler Political and Philosophical Society was established in the Philippines. Research. During the 1970s, he cooperated with Cardinal Karol Wojtyla of Krakow, later to become Pope John Paul II, within the framework of the International Society for Phenomenology. He published the first comment articles on the future Pope's anthropological conception. During the 1980s, he engaged in a critique of legal positivism and developed a theory according to which human rights are the basis of the validity of international law. He also dealt with the applicability of democracy in interstate relations. Legal theory led him to questions of political philosophy, and in particular a critique of the representative paradigm of democracy. During the 1990s, Köchler got increasingly involved in questions of world order, including the role and philosophical foundations of civilizational dialogue, and in what he has called the dialectic relationship between power and law. On the basis of these reflections, he made major proposals for the reform of the United Nations organization, in particular the Security Council, and for a comprehensive system of international criminal justice. Köchler's bibliography contains more than 380 books, reports and scholarly articles in several languages. His publications deal with issues of phenomenology, existential philosophy, anthropology, human rights, philosophy of law, theory of international law, international criminal law, United Nations reform, theory of democracy, etc. He acts as editor of the series Studies in International Relations, Veröffentlichung und Arbeitsgemeinschaft für Wissenschaft und Politik, and is member of the editorial board of the international academic journal Hekmet Virginia Falsafa, published by the Philosophy Department of Alamata Batabei University, Iran. Köchler has served in several committees and expert groups dealing with issues of international democracy, human rights and development, such as the Research Network on Transnational Democracy sponsored by the European Commission, the Council of Europe's Expert Group on Democratic Citizenship, and the Asia-Europe Foundation's Expert Meeting on Cultural, Religious and Social Conceptions of Justice in Asia and Europe. Non-governmental organizations. Köchler is the founder and president of the International Progress Organization, an international non-governmental organization in consultative status with the United Nations and with a membership in over 70 countries, representing all continents. He was the founder and secretary-general of Euregia Alpina, a transnational planning structure for the Alpine region and predecessor of the new concept of the Euro-regions, in the framework of the European Union. During the 1970s and 1980s, Köchler participated in the international phenomenological movement and organized several conferences and colloquia on the phenomenology of the life world. He was the organizer of the 8th International Phenomenological Conference in Salzburg and is the co-founder of the Austrian Society of Phenomenology. Other activities or functions: coordinator of the International Committee for Palestinian Human Rights, co-founder of the European Ombudsman Institute, vice-chairman of the Jamahir Society for Culture and Philosophy and chairman of the Society's editorial board, Vienna, member of the board, NGO Committee on Development at the United Nations Center in Vienna, member of the Advisory Council of the International Movement for a Just World, convener of the International Movement for a Just World. member of the International Advisory Panel of the Center for Civilizational Dialogue at the University of Malaya, member of the International Advisory Council of the Committee for a Democratic United Nations, Germany, member of the International Advisory Board of the Youth for the Alliance of Civilizations, an initiative of the Islamic Conference Youth Forum for Dialogue and Cooperation. International impact. Köchler has been the organizer of major international conferences in the fields of transnational cooperation, democracy, human rights, terrorism, and conflict resolution, among them the International Conference on the European Vocation of the Alpine Region, in Innsbruck, which initiated transborder cooperation in Europe and the development towards the Euro regions within the EU, the International Conference on the Question of Terrorism in Geneva, and the Second International Conference on a More Democratic United Nations at the Vienna headquarters of the United Nations. In 1996 he acted as chairman of the final session and coordinator of the drafting committee of the International Conference on Democracy and Terrorism in New Delhi. In March 2002, he delivered the 14th centenary lecture at the Supreme Court of the Philippines on the United Nations, the International Rule of Law and Terrorism. On 1 September 2004 he delivered the Foundation Day speech at Mindanao State University, Islamic city of Marawi, on the dialogue of civilizations and the future of world order, through his research and civil society initiatives. Professor Köchler made major contributions to the debate on international democracy and United Nations reform, in particular reform of the Security Council. This was acknowledged by international figures such as the German Foreign Minister Klaus Kinkel in 1993. In 1985, he organized the first colloquium on democracy and international relations, on the occasion of the 40th anniversary of the United Nations in New York. With Irish Nobel laureate Sean MacBride he initiated the Appeal by Lawyers Against Nuclear War, which set in motion an international campaign that eventually led to a General Assembly resolution and the issuing of an advisory opinion by the International Court of Justice. As president of the IPO, he dealt with the humanitarian issues of the exchange of prisoners of war between Iran and Iraq and with the issue of Kuwaiti POWs and missing people in Iraq. Since 1972, UN Secretaries General in their statements subsequently acknowledged Professor Köchler's contribution to international peace. In the framework of his activities as president of the International Progress Organization, he cooperated with numerous international figures such as the founder-president of Senegal, Léopold Sédar Senghor, on the issue of civilizational dialogue, Crown Prince Hassan of Jordan and Cardinal Franz König of Austria on Islamic-Christian understanding, Leo Mates, Secretary-General of the First Non-Aligned Summit in Belgrade in 1961, on the principles and future of the non-aligned movement, Field Marshal Abdul Rahman Sowore El Dahab, former head of state of Sudan, on matters of power exchange and international humanitarian law, Indian President Gyanai Zail Singh on issues of international peace, and Sir Thomas Daniel, former British MP and father of the House of Commons, in the case of the criminal investigation into the bombing of Pan Am Flight 103. Major works: Die Subjekt Objekt Dialektik in der transzendentalen Phänomenologie, Das Sensproblemswischen Idealismus und Realismus, Meisenheim A. G. Anton Hein, 1974. Skepsis und Gesellschaftskritik im Denken Martin Heideggers. Monographien zur philosophischen Forschung, Volume 158. Meisenheim A. G. Anton Hein, 1978. Philosophie, Recht, Politik, Abhandlungen zur politischen Philosophie und zur Rechtsphilosophie. Veröffentlichung in der Arbeitsgemeinschaft für Wissenschaft und Politik in der Universität Innsbruck, Volume 4, Vienna, New York. Springer Verlag, 1985. The Principles of Non-Alignment, London. Third World Center, 1982. Phenomenological Realism. Selected Essays. Frankfurt A. M. Bern. Peter Lang, 1986. Politik und Theologie bei Heidegger. Politischer Aktionismus und theologische Mystik nach seinen Zeitveröffentlichungen der Arbeitsgemeinschaft für Wissenschaft und Politik in der Universität Innsbruck. Volume 7, Innsbruck. Arbeitsgemeinschaft für Wissenschaft und Politik, 1991. Democracy and the International Rule of Law. Propositions for an Alternative World Order. Selected papers published on the occasion of the 50th anniversary of the United Nations. Vienna, New York. Springer Verlag, 1995. Neue Wege der Demokratie. Demokratie im globalen Spannungsfeld von Macht, Politik und Rechtsstaatlichkeit. Vienna, New York. Springer Verlag, 1998. Manila Lectures 2002. Terrorism and the Quest for a Just World Order. Kazan City. FSJ Book World 2002. Global Justice or Global Revenge. International Criminal Justice at the Crossroads. Philosophical Reflections on the Principles of the International Legal Order, published on the occasion of the 30th anniversary of the foundation of the International Progress Organization. Springer Science. Vienna, New York. Springer Verlag, 2003, Indian edition, published by the Indian Society of International Law. New Delhi. Manik Publications, 2005, Turkish edition. Istanbul. Manik, 2005, Arabic edition. Casablanca. Top edition, 2011. Casablanca, Morocco. Top edition, 2009. World Order, Vision and Reality. Collected papers edited by David Armstrong. Studies in International Relations, Volume 31. New Delhi. Manik, 2009. Global Justice or Global Revenge. The ICC and the Politicization of International Criminal Justice in International Criminal Law and Human Rights. Manoj Kumar Sinha. The Security Council as Administrator of Justice. Reflections on the antagonistic relationship between power and law. Vienna. International Progress Organization, 2011. Force or Dialogue. Conflicting Paradigms of World Order. Collected papers edited by David Armstrong. Studies in International Relations, Volume 33. New Delhi. Manik, 2015. Bibliography. Complete bibliography. Titles in the Library of Congress Catalog.